Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the Fluance RT81 turntable package. I hope you enjoy it. Today's review of the Fluance RT81 turntable is part of a series we're doing on entry-level turntables. These are turntables that in our minds are ones you would consider if you don't have a turntable now and want to explore what vinyl is all about. Or if you have an older turntable that doesn't run very well or may have deteriorating rubber or other parts and you want to replace it, but you're on something of a budget. We want to explore whether you can get something really useful at these price points and figure out in the lower price range, shall we say, of the ones we're looking at, which one is the best. This is the first of those reviews, so we'll be following up at the end with some comparison of the different models that we've looked at to maybe help you sort them out. Okay, the Fluance RT81 is made by a Canadian firm. You can see it right here. It's a pretty standard looking turntable, but I want to emphasize something. We're starting with this one because the price point is $249 or 249 pounds, depending on where you live, but that's a pretty similar price point, and I think you'll agree, not at all stratospheric. In a world of $100,000 turntables and up, $249 is pretty reasonable. But the question that we have and that you might have is, at that kind of price point, can I get something useful, usable, enjoyable? So let's explore that a little bit. First, the Fluance RT81 is a belt drive turntable. It has an S-shaped tone arm, and it comes with an Audio-Technica AT95E moving magnet cartridge, and in fact all the turntables that we'll be looking at have this feature. It has a built-in phono preamp. For those of you not familiar with vinyl reproduction, you have to do a special equalization of vinyl records to play them back on a regular stereo, and that requires something called a phono preamp. There's another video on the Absolute Sound YouTube channel done by Michael Fremer on how the RIAA equalization curve works. And if you're really interested in the innards of this, you could go watch that. But it's the standard equalization curve that essentially almost every turntable cartridge combination has to follow. Anyway, this comes with a built-in phono preamp, which is convenient. It doesn't take up any space, and you don't have to pay any extra money. So you're kind of ready to go. You can plug this into, in our case, we plugged it into a Burmester integrated amplifier, which is kind of the opposite end of the scale in terms of price points. But we wanted to make sure we were using high-quality equipment to see if we could get the best out of this turntable. I have it here without a dust cover, but it does come with a dust cover. It comes with rubber feet, and it will run at both 33 and 45 RPM if you want to play 45 RPM. There's some ultra-high fidelity 45 RPM discs out there. Of course, there are good old 7-inch singles as well, but most of you who would be interested in 45 RPM will want it because of the ultra-high fidelity issues that are out there in some cases. Anyway, that's a nice feature. It has anti-skating. It has a removable head shell. It has a tone arm lift to make it easy to operate. It does not lift the tone arm at the end of the record. I don't think that's a problem, but there you go. And to adjust the speed, you simply move this little knob. Okay, so in a way, it's a conventional, straight-ahead turntable with a elastomeric suspension. It is not a spring suspended system. There you go. I don't know what else to say about it because it's very straightforward. The question is, does it work? And I'll be back in a minute to talk about how it sounds. Okay, let's talk about sound quality. Presumably, and presumptions are meant to be slapped down, but presumably you are interested in vinyl because there is a sound quality to vinyl that many people really like. A lot of people have a hard time putting their finger on it. I'll try to do a little bit of that here, but there is a sound quality that vinyl has. There is, however, I want to mention, a completely additional but possibly separate aspect of vinyl reproduction that a number of listeners I have interviewed talk about as a primary thing. And I just want to acknowledge that and say, if this is you and this is all you care about, you don't need to listen to the rest of this review. The interesting thing about vinyl for a lot of people is there's a way of interacting with the music that is very different from streaming. And I think a lot of that has to do with it's a physical product. You have an album, you take it out of the jacket. The jacket has artwork. The jacket has liner notes. There's all of this tactile interaction. And I think a key feature is you put the vinyl on the turntable and you put the stylus in the groove, and there's something about that format, because it isn't easy to change tracks and it's not that easy to change LPs, that encourages you to stick with the album as the format of delivering sound, to play at least the whole side. And that's an attention span difference and a difference in interaction with the music that a lot of people just like. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I want to say what I'm about to talk about in terms of sound quality is this is surprisingly good in terms of sound quality. So what you want is a turntable for that tactile interaction element, and you want to make sure it's good enough that you'll enjoy it, you need not spend any more than $249. And you can judge by our close-up photography, but I think you'll agree it's actually a pretty nice looking turntable in a fairly conventional mode. Okay, but on to sound quality. Those of you who are into audio and into sound quality and who care about vinyl maybe in addition to its tactile elements, but care about vinyl because it's got that certain je ne sais quoi sound quality that people love, many people love. Let's talk about how this performs. All right, I can't help but talk about this without at least considering in the back of my mind that it's $249. And for $249, it is amazing. Let's just say it. It sounds really good. Now, I used a $24,000 amplifier and my favorite Magnapan LRS speakers and high-end cables and, audiophile stuff out the yin-yang. So fine, I gave it a fighting chance, but this thing works really well. I'm going to describe what really well means, but if I were getting my first turntable and you handed this to me and I knew what I know now, I would not be disappointed. I would be thrilled because this thing makes music. Okay, now let's get past the generalizations and get into some specifics. When you're talking about a turntable package like this, you don't really know what makes it sound the way it does. Is it the phono preamp? Is it the turntable? Is it the tone arm? Is it the cartridge? Is it the setup? There's a lot of variables. So I'm not going to pretend that I know what causes this to sound the way it does. What I will describe is I'll describe the bass, the mid-range, and the treble, because that's an easy way to think about it. The bass on this, I think, is very good. It is tuneful, it is detailed, it is rich, it is enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's the deepest bass you're going to find in turntabledom. So, there's the people who are making turntables that cost more than $249 are not charlatans. They're working very hard to get the last few percent that can be delivered, and they care about it, and I care about it. So I'm not trying to tell you that this is the equal of a $20,000 or $50,000 turntable. Negatory. But the bass is quite enjoyable, tuneful, has enough punch that I think it sounds less flat than some CDs can sound. Let's just put it that way. The mid-range is clear and has good depth and good soundstage presentation. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's quite good and enjoyable. The lower mid-range has a reasonable sense of that. You may not know, but I will say that vinyl richness that, again, is part of why people get into this game from a sound quality standpoint. As we go up higher in the mid-range, that's where we have more of a mixed bag. I would say the upper mid-range and the lower treble, if you're not used to critically evaluating audio equipment, might sound just fine. That what's nice about this turntable cartridge preamp combination is that there isn't some annoying distortion that jumps out at you. If you're an audiophile reviewer like me, what you immediately notice is, I would say, the upper mid-range is a little bit thin sounding. So the richness kind of fades as we get up higher in frequency, and it's a little bit thinner sounding, which usually indicates that there's some unevenness in frequency response where there's, say, part of the, if you will, the lower upper mid-range, 1,000 to 2,000 hertz, let's say, that might be a little bit depressed, and then there's a little bit of an increased output in maybe the 2 to 4K range somewhere. So it just sounds, things don't sound as chesty. They sound more, mouth vocal. I hope that helps. And then the lower treble is, it has a little bit of grain or roughness to it. It isn't edgy, and that's important because I think that's where we would cross the line and say, yeah, if you're in this for the vinyl magic, you're only gonna get a bit of it, and you're gonna be constantly reminded that this isn't the kind of a taste of the vinyl experience. This is half of the vinyl experience. It's the crust of the pizza, but not the cheese. Okay. But it's not like that. The lower treble is fine, but on some LPs, it can just have a hint of roughness that lets you know you're not drinking $200 wine, you're drinking the $10 stuff. But if you've had Australian or New Zealand wine, those guys can do amazing things at $10. So, it's perfectly drinkable. This is perfectly drinkable. Now, that all of that said, that adds up to, in my mind, a pretty nice turntable, but it doesn't put the wrap on it I would like you to have, which is I listened to 20 or so LPs on this turntable, and I really enjoyed a lot of them. I dug out my Peter Gabriel 4 album. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, and I don't suspect you care, but Peter Gabriel numbered his first 4 albums. Well, I titled them all Peter Gabriel, and then they ended up being called 1, 2, 3, and 4. Anyway, Peter Gabriel 4, which is a very drum-oriented, super rhythmic album, and I mean, you can dance to this thing. I was really enjoying it. I pulled out an old Bruckner Fourth, one of my favorite Bruckner symphonies and one of my favorite symphonies overall, and I dug that out because it was, by the way, almost everything I played was a pre-digital recording LP, because I didn't want to get into the whole argument of can you do digital recording and then put it on vinyl and still get vinyl magic. So I wanted to make sure we were pretty much analog the whole way through. Anyway, the Barenboim Bruckner Fourth was recorded in 72, I think. It's on Deutsche Grammophon. I loved the symphony, and I always hated the recording. And once again, I don't know what the DG guys were doing back then, but anyway, they were doing some weird, pinchy, trebly stuff. And this, it sounded as good as I remember hearing it, but the point I'm trying to make is that you will not purchase a turntable that will sound good on a lot of LPs that will magically repair bad recordings. It's as simple as that. I listened to a Chris Whitley 45 RPM audiophile kind of pressing that was amazing in terms of the sound stage and depth and the resonance from the guitar, and the vocals were just really detailed without being strident in their presentation. So if you get the feeling that I like this turntable, the answer is I did. If you want to know whether you can do better, the answer is I think you can, but probably not at this price point. We'll be experimenting with price points above this, like $350, $450, $550 in dollars kind of numbers, and we'll see if for those relatively small increments, if we can do better. But you would not be doing badly if you're on a budget to pick this up. Let me mention one other thing. I think the Audio-Technica 1895E is widely known in the industry as a really good budget cartridge. So Fluance seems to have some brain power, and they picked a really good cartridge. That said, there's a really easy step up. I did not listen to this, so I can't tell you from personal experience, but there is a step up in terms of just removing the stylus. You don't have to unmount the cartridge or anything, and you can replace it with the next cartridge up or the next stylus up in the Audio-Technica line, and presumably you get, I hope, a little bit of that treble roughness that I was talking about gets dialed back teeny weeny little bit, and you're out $50 or $75. I should have looked up the price, but anyway, it's probably a number like that. So I think the choice of the cartridge here is very good. Of course, if you just want to skip ahead, you can get this same turntable with an Ortophon cartridge. Again, no experience with that, so no idea whether that's better. The Fluance guys seem to be tuned in, so presumably it's better. And again, not a lot more, but this is a pretty good package as it sits. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you will tune in and watch the subsequent videos we do. We have a Project turntable, and a Riga turntable, I have one in from, believe it or not, that's cheaper than this, from IKEA. I have my doubts, but I had my doubts about this, and they were completely allayed. So, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. As always, please subscribe, click on the notification bell, and remember, we publish on many platforms, so visit us on the web. Sign up for our newsletter. You get product reviews every week, and please come back for more videos. Thank you.